everyone! With the midterms fast approaching, I thought, hey, this is the perfect time to do some exam videos like this one, which is entitled Exam Mistakes and How to Avoid Them. You can apply these tips on pretty much any type of exam, multiple choice, long answer, case studies, and also to any discipline I find, because I use these methods in like chem, physics, psychology exams, behavioral neuroscience, cognition, perception, you name it. To me, they work. Give them a shot. What do you got to lose? So I'm just gonna start right off the bat with my first tip for you guys, which is do not stress. The number one mistake that I find students do, and I used to do when I was like in high school or in CEGEP, was I rushed. I was stressed, obviously, it's a midterm, it's an exam, it's uncomfortable, and you're kind of panicking. Now, a way to avoid this, a way to calm down, is to plan your time. So when you get that exam in front of you, look it over. Like, look over the entire exam. Don't just start right off the bat. I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, I am quite sure, because it kind of helps you to have a general overview of the entire exam, and that way you get to like plan your time. So if it's like 20 multiple choices, 2 long answer and 1 case study, well, you have to like estimate how much time. Okay, I can spend 1 minute on each multiple choice, then 10 minutes on each long answer, and then the last 30 minutes or like 45 minutes I'm gonna spend on the case study because it's worth like 25 points. So that way it's gonna help you reduce your stress because you know what's coming. It's not gonna surprise you. I find that, like, you know, when you turn the page and you don't know what's coming, you're gonna be like, oh my god, then I spent so much time on this and I didn't know this was coming, and that, my friends, I call knowledge explosion. My second tip for you is kind of obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people, including myself, sometimes guilty, don't do this, and that is read everything. Like, don't just skim through the questions, yeah, I know it, okay, this one, suicidal ideation, blah, blah, blah. Read the whole thing, like word per word. Read it all, read all the choices. If it's a multiple choice question, read all the multiple choices, because you never know. In psychology exams, they're so tricky. One word can make the world of a difference. So let's say if you have the choices of A, B, C, or D, if you're like, oh, A, no, that's not it, B, oh, that's the right answer, circle it, next question. You haven't read C or D. So how do you know it's not one of those if you skip them? My third tip is something I learned in university, and I really wish I knew it sooner, because you have no idea how much this helps. I strongly, 1,000,000,000% recommend everyone try this at least on one exam. If you're afraid to do this, if you think it's gonna take too much time, try it on like a small midterm or something that's not worth much, just to like, you know, dip your little toe in the water and see how it works for you. But this has saved my bum so many times, I cannot even begin to tell you. When I read my question, I highlight key words in that question. So if the question is blah 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 blah, suicidal ideation, blah 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 blah, like diagnosis, blah blah blah, symptoms. See, those are keywords that jumped at me. Or like, which one of these answer is not, underline not, the correct term, or something like that. This way, it not only helps you understand the question better, it helps words pop, and you would be surprised how amazing the subconscious is. When it sees words like trigger words, I like to call them, they open a little drawer in your head and you're like, oh yeah, I remember I studied about that, and then it just opens an entire like scroll and all the information is there. So definitely when you highlight a keyword, it just like bam, it hits you and you just like, okay, this is what we're talking about, everything else is shut off. Give it a try, I promise you this tip is gonna be like amazing to you. Moving on to the next tip, which kind of like ties in with the highlighting advice, is to be active when you are reading your exam. So that is, use your pencil and underline, like, okay, highlight the question, the highlighter is just for the question. Now when you go to the answers, be active with them. So like, okay, this is definitely not the right answer, so make an X on it. So your brain's just like, okay, I'm not even looking at that one anymore. Or like, oh, this one, this keyword, I'm iffy about that one, so I'm gonna underline it. Or like, this thing, I circle it and I remember, you know, it's not 75%, it's actually 85, so that number is wrong, and I write 85, not 75. You know, just interact with your question, because it helps your brain organize all your thoughts when you see them clearly. And also sometimes, like, I know it sounds weird, but you forget your thought process, so you can't just go like A, B, D. I mean, if you can do that, wow, props to you, it means you studied hardy. But honestly, to avoid making mistakes, definitely engage your questions. Make X's, like if that's the right question, make a little circle on your paper and then put it on your answer sheet, that type of thing. So you have like a clear, like, mapping of your thought process. I think this helps. It takes a bit of time, but once you get used to it, I do it so quick you won't even believe it. Like tick 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 tick, this one, and like it takes practice. And finally, my last advice to you is to trust your instinct. I know there's a lot of debates that question whether or not you should like go back on your answers, review your exam. To me, I find that every single time I went back on an answer, I made a mistake. I picked the wrong one, I overanalyzed it, I doubted myself. So definitely don't do that. If you're not sure of a question, leave it blank and come back to it at the end when you review your entire exam, if you have time. If you don't have time to review your entire exam, go back to the questions you didn't answer and then think about it a little bit. But definitely on the answers, I mean on the questions you already gave an answer to, don't go back on them. Trust your gut. Like I said, the subconscious is a wonderful thing, and you will find that the quickest, most spontaneous answer you circled is the correct one, because it doesn't allow you to overthink things. Virgos, watch out, eh? You do this. Don't overthink it. Go with your gut. So if you're like, no, you read the question, like, I'm sure it's A. And then you go back and you're like, oh, but you know, B is kind of good too. What about C? What about this word? What does she mean by this word? Nothing. They didn't mean anything by that word most of the time. Now with that being said, I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found it helpful. Good luck for your midterms and your exams and or surprise quizzes. Yay! And if you have any special requests, please let me know. Right now I'm focusing mostly on midterms, so if you have any specific suggestions, leave it in the comments down below. It would be a pleasure to do it for you. And enjoy fall, because I'm like so into it right now. I don't know if you see this Halloween thing I got going, but bam! It's my season. So don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and subscribe to me if you like what you see. I will definitely see you in my next video. Bye guys!